Don't you think he would be up here talking?
Yeah.
That's Paul Mooney. Somebody said Paul Mooney hiding. Paul Mooney ain't hiding. Wait a minute. Paul Mooney's not well.
In context of now, like how is your father doing?
He's good. He's doing well. He's looking well. He's
ill.
He's ailing mentally. So he's
physically.
He's not what he was. He's slower.
So he's basically retired from stand-up.
Because he can't get up and
because
do a whole
don't you think he would be up here talking?
Yeah.
That's Paul Mooney. Somebody said Paul Mooney hiding. Paul Mooney ain't hiding. Wait a minute. Paul Mooney's not well. Somebody just said in Atlanta that Paul Mooney canceled his show because he was performing in Atlanta. Paul Mooney don't perform. He was coming to Atlanta because he promotes comedians, just like he did back in the day when he put Robin Williams on, when he put Tim Reed on, when he put Johnny Witherspoon on. He's always promoted comedians. So that's what he can do now. He can go to a city. It could be a Paul Mooney Presents, where it showcases different comics and he can come in and sign autographs. But he's not performing. He's not well enough. And the only reason he didn't go to Atlanta, Paul, he don't even know what's going on right now with all this Richard Pryor stuff. He don't need to speak on it. We speaking on it. We're his oldest sons. He's actually the oldest.
Yeah, he don't know the difference between Richard Pryor Jr. and Little Richard. So you ain't getting nothing out of Paul.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So don't even trip. Like somebody trying to create it. Oh, he was scared to show up. He was dehydrated and ill. He had to cancel. He had to cancel the presentation. He was in the hospital. So give me a break. If you're gonna come to us.
That's right. We'll deal with you all.
Right.
The twin.
So we definitely so we coming to you guys.
Come
at
on,
least,
come
on. What you want to know?
Come on.
What?
When so you said your father, you guys lightly touched on Mr. Khan, which is Richard Pryor's former bodyguard.
JoJo Dancer on, the relationship became fragile. Okay. Because Paul Mooney had Richard's son by that time. Okay. And he violated. And that's any man, if you violate their children like that. Mm-hmm. So Paul took advantage of the situation. And so from there on, whatever Paul Mooney was to Richard, and there was a time that Paul Mooney was Richard's friend. I acknowledge that, which is why the gay community really couldn't say anything they attempted to about Richard, because Paul Mooney was his friend. And they laughed. So when Paul did what he did, it was a violation of friendship first, and then my son,
Right.
And in some circles, that's supposed to be dealt with. It didn't happen because Richard caught on fire. Richard burned. And that's what saved Paul Mooney's life today, present day, is because Richard caught on fire. And then that became the primary. Before that, it was Paul Mooney. You did this to my son. It was betrayal, my son. And then you pretended like it didn't happen. So had Richard not caught on fire, Paul Mooney would not be here. He wouldn't be living today.
So your father has not heard these allegations yet?
He don't know what y'all talking. He thinks you talking about Paul Mooney, the old actor. He don't know what y'all talking about out here.
But you guys did hear about the allegations concerning
we're
Richard
very
Pryor
hip to
Jr.
the allegations.
We are very hip to it.
We've known Rashawn quite well. We've known Rashawn.
Okay.
And, how y'all gonna listen to a goddamn bodyguard?
Yeah, I thought it's usually the maid that tells the business, not the bodyguard. Good Lord. Bodyguard out guarding the door.
What is your guys' response upon
my
even hearing this story?
response is fuck you. Rashawn, fuck you. Okay, coming out with some bullshit like that when Paul is ailing after he's old. If the shit was hot, you should have told that shit years ago. Richard Pryor Jr. ain't said nothing about it. Yeah. So why you gonna tell somebody's business? Please.
Richard Pryor Jr. had a book and didn't say nothing about Paul Mooney. Then you gonna come out with a book, he got a book coming out, a book afterward talking about what Paul Mooney did?
Yeah.
What the fuck you talking about? You ain't talking about what Richard Pryor did? The fuck y'all talking about?
All the shit that's in Richard Pryor shit, and I ain't telling nobody's business because it ain't up to me to out nobody.
That's
if
right.
a person wants to out, let them out themselves. You gonna write something and out people? Give me a break. So You look at, and this is documented in Richard Pryor's Jr. book. Richard Pryor says Richard Pryor Jr. says when he was 13 years old, that his father, Richard Pryor, paid for a 26-year-old prostitute to break his virginity. In his book, this ain't no make-believe stuff. This ain't no make-up stuff.
And he also talked about picking up two
When he was a teenager.
hitchhikers.
Hitchhikers.
Bringing them to Richard Pryor's house.
He ain't-
Richard Pryor, this was documented.
He ain't never
when
mentioned
Richard Pryor
no Paul
Jr.
Mooney
was
in that book.
asked on TMZ about that element and about what went down, he never mentioned Paul Mooney.
That's right.
So for Rashawn to talk that shit, and we've known Rashawn, to bring it up now, who's an old man himself, what the fuck was he doing? And the whole shit about he put a hit on Paul. Richard Pryor was high every goddamn day. He probably put a hit on everybody. He probably put a hit on his mama. And for Rashawn as a bodyguard to sit up there and take that and say, "Wow, I thought about it." How you gonna think about some bullshit like that? Don't you know all the undercover shit that go on? That you put a hit out on somebody, that somebody gonna tell the police and it's gonna get back to you, and Richard Pryor would have been put in jail? Richard, and then the timeline, this was in the 80s, and in 82, they do a film and in concert together, and you see him with Richard, and you see him with Richard in 85 and 86, on and on and on. The fuck, if you want to kill somebody, you gonna hang with them, especially if they supposed to be with your child, you're gonna be their friend? What the fuck is he talking about? It's like insanity.
This is
about what
my
he's
thing.
talking
This is
about.
my thing. Ain't none of it true.
Exactly.
It's all lies. It's all gossip. Until Richard Pryor Jr. steps up to the plate and says somebody did something, then it's truth. Other than that, it's just haterade.
My question is, to tie into that, if Pryor Jr. does come out and says that it is true, what is your response?
Say, what was that?
If Richard Pryor Jr. says it is true,
Well, we'll deal with that then.
yeah, we'll deal with that. You talking? That's a what if.
That's a big what if.
But let me tell you, this is what I mean by this. We've been knowing our father for a long time. For this to come up, anytime we've ever saw our father is with women, beautiful women. That's all we know. Now he had mistresses. Now was I supposed to tell that? Yeah. I know he had women mistresses when he was married. So other than that, that's all we know as our father. He was a ladies' man. That's what we know. So anything other than that is speculation. And if he was, he never brought that bullshit to us. So
And it's not even bullshit
No.
today. I mean, pedophileness is bullshit.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother level.
That's a
But I'm
whole-
talking about right now with the LGBT community and all that, and the
Right.
gay thing, and who, that bisexuality or whatever have you that's out there right now. That's always been the norm in Hollywood anyway. But now it's becoming the norm in society. And now the people who was in the closet are coming out the closet, like that actor did the other day. What's his name from Undercover?
Malik Yoba?
Yeah, this
so
stuff
he's,
is
he's out the closet.
this
now.
stuff
He
this
went
stuff
from under the
this
cover
stuff
to
is
out the closet.
undercover to out the closet. So this stuff is common today, but what does that have to do with your talent? What does that have to do with your contribution to society? What does that have to do with who you are as a creative person? You see, so when we talk about the timeline with Richard Pryor Jr., if this happened, how old was he?
Yeah.
Once say you say little boy, but then it was a little boy. Then you say your timeline is different. Was he 19? Was he 20? So it's all until Richard Pryor Jr. comes out with it. I don't know, because people can say any damn thing, especially if you hating on somebody. You can say anything about somebody. I don't know what is it about now. All the great things that Paul Mooney has contributed to Hollywood. Why now all of a sudden something becomes popular in the media? Why now that Michael Jackson, look what they did to Michael Jackson. Look what they did to Bill Cosby. Look what they do to these black men after they've created a legacy. Then all of a sudden they get older. Somebody want to crack and destroy their legacy. Are you kidding? The legacy is too strong to be destroyed unless you coming up with something real and you got some proof about it, because other than that, you just talking shit.
And the reality is Richard Pryor Jr. is a good brother.
Yeah. Nothing against the brother.
We don't have nothing against
Never
him.
met him, nothing against him.
And we say, let's talk about it.